Uh, MeMeraki, very interesting. It's an India's first culture tech platform. MeMeraki is committed to bring the piece of Indian heritage. In the lobby, you might have seen, there are stands, there are artworks that are at the lobby. They have been curated and presented by the MeMeraki. Yesterday, she did a fabulous walk where she talked about the different art forms in that. So they're kind of setting up these Indian heritage in every space: home, airports, corporate offices, hotel, and public spaces. It is curating almost 350 master artists and over 10,000 artworks, listings from the remotest corners of India with a global audience. And they also work with about 150 heritage arts and crafts of India, and they work with artists across the remotest corners of India to create artworks and art installations. And they also do live workshops, among many other things. So thrilled to have Misha talk about this, and I mean, you can make it interactive also.
Of course, sure. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Right. So basically, I would like to thank Ram for such a fabulous introduction to MeMeraki as well. And basically, this is a little bit about me. I am a curator, and I'm an art historian by profession, and I love to curate exhibitions based on the folk and tribal arts of India. And it is very important for us to make sure that we provide a platform to the artists who have no other means to make their livelihoods, right? To make sure that they have the means and the motive as well so that they can promote their own arts and crafts. And I have curated numerous exhibitions across India and some places abroad as well, for example, in Hong Kong and Sydney. And I would love to take Indian arts, specifically the folk and tribal arts, to the entire world. So I think, yeah, it's visible, right? Okay, perfect. So this is a little bit about MeMeraki. So as Ram said, MeMeraki is a cultural platform, and we try to provide a digital space to our artists. And we have over 350 master artists, and we have over 150 to 200 different art forms. And these are not just normal art forms. These are the traditional folk, tribal, and indigenous art forms of the country. Then this is a folk art map of India. Can I zoom in? No. Okay, so this is also available in the lobby itself, and this is basically a small map of the different arts and crafts of India, not the embroideries, but just the folk, traditional tribal arts of the country. Here we have got a list of about 97 arts and crafts that are there that are there on our platform. Then basically, I think I'll just sit. Okay. So basically, when we talk about Indian arts, so Indian arts is not just about the basic things, Varli, Madhubani, Bhil, Gond, right? It is about expressing yourselves. Folk tribal arts specifically, it is about expressing, it is about making sure that people know about what they are feeling about the general things, right? So when we talk about the different types of arts, so we have got 4 different categories that we can put them into. So we have got the folk arts, the tribal arts, indigenous arts, and the traditional arts. Now, yeah. So the folk arts are basically the ones which are done by common people, people who are living in the villages, people who are there in rural setups, not exactly towns, but yeah, like kind of like towns. Then we have got the tribal arts. They are basically the ones which are practiced by the tribal community. So we have got we actually have about 10,000 different tribes in our country, right? So almost all of them practice some form of tribal arts or another. Then we have got the indigenous and traditional arts. Now, these are a bit tricky because all the traditional arts can be categorized as either folk or tribal. And as for the traditional arts, it's the same for that as well. It actually depends upon the kind of art that is being done. So, like the region in which it is being done. So, for example, if it is an art that originated in the country, in the Indian subcontinent, then it would be categorized as an indigenous art form. But if it is something that developed in, let's say, Persia or somewhere else in Central Asia, because there was a lot of, India was a melting pot of culture, right, in the ancient period. So if it is something like that, then of course we have got the, it originated somewhere else, but it developed in the country. So what happened was that the artists developed their own regional motifs, and they, like for example, if we talk about Kashmiri paper mache, they started incorporating walnuts and chinar leaves and all the other things, all the flowers that grew in the geographical region. So that's how it became Indianized, even though it did not actually originate in the country. So these kind of art forms are called traditional arts. Now, when we talk about the paintings in general, so it's not something that developed in about 1,000, 2,000 years ago. In the country, in the Indian subcontinent, arts have been practiced since the prehistoric period. So we have got numerous caves. We have got the Bhimbetka caves, we have got the Jogimara caves, we have got the, which are the caves in Almora? Lakhudiyar. We have got the Lakhudiyar cave. So all these caves have got some kind of impact on the arts and crafts that developed in the country later on. So it's important to know a little bit about these cave paintings so that we actually get to know that it's not about 2,000 years old. It's actually about 7, 10, yeah, roughly about 10, 20,000 years ago that art actually developed in the country. Then I'll just show you a few paintings. So this is Lakhudiyar caves. It's in Almora, Uttarakhand. And here we can see the wavy lines. Now these wavy lines, geometrical lines, and all these patterns have been relevant because these actually helped the arts that developed later on. Then if we see this painting, it's basically from Bhimbetka caves. Have you been to Bhimbetka? No? Okay. It's fine. It's actually one of the most famous caves in India. It's in Madhya Pradesh, central India. It's quite nice actually because it's the first cave that was actually discovered in the country. And if you look at the motifs, the way the human figures are drawn over there, so it's similar to the kind of tribal art form that we see in the country today. So we have got to, okay, I'll come back to it. So if you see this one, this is a comparative analysis of the Bhimbetka caves and the paintings of Varli. So Varli, Saura, and Muria. So all these three art forms are similar to the cave paintings that are found in the Bhimbetka region. So even though this is in central India, this is Madhya Pradesh, and Varli is in Maharashtra, Saura is in Odisha, and Muria is in Muria is from Chhattisgarh. So these are three very different art forms which developed in very different regions from the Bhimbetka caves, but they were still influenced by the rudimentary drawings and the stick figures and the stick animals and the way they are filled in from the other kind of arts, right? So, and here we can see a group of people who are dancing. So this is symbolic of the kind of paintings that the Wadi tribes make. So they have a lot of paintings which are important for dancing, singing, all the ceremonies, all the festivals. So that's why it's important for us to trace the origins of the art forms in general, right? So when we talk about Warli paintings, so Warli paintings, I've already covered that. And when we talk about the Saura paintings, now even though they are very similar to the Warli paintings, they are different in the sense that they are more religious in nature. They have all the ceremonies, all the spiritual themes in their paintings as compared to Warli, which also contains the harvest festivals and all the other, it's also done during the weddings, it's also done during the birth of your children and other different happy scenes, happy events in our lives. So that's about that. Now, as for Warli, it only uses two colors. We have got Geru, and that's red, and we have got white. As for Saura, we have got a wider color palette. We have got yellows and blues and greens, which are also included in this kind of painting. Then as for Muria paintings, now Muria paintings are interesting because even though they are very similar to the paintings which are done by the Warli and Saura tribes, but they are different. Why? Because they are not done only on happy ceremonies. They are also done because they are also done on the dormitories of the boys. So it's basically like a school system. So Ghotu is sorry, yeah, it's basically a school in which they teach the boys how to hunt, how to be a nice person, how to learn different important things, how to grow crops, all the other important things, right? And yeah, so these are again different because this one is a black, or simply black painting, but they also have a wider color palette, even wider than the Saura paintings that we saw over here. Now, common themes in this are again harvest and festivals. Yeah. So that's about the prehistoric cave paintings and how they influenced the different tribes of India and how they influenced the different arts and crafts of India, right? Now, when we talk about the other early trends in Indian art, these are basically the kind of paintings that we see in the caves, but these paintings developed slightly later on in like so till now we were talking about 10,000 years back, 15,000 years back, but now we are talking about, let's say 3,000, 4,000 years back when these came, these prettier, not prettier exactly, but these more intricate paintings developed, right? So these cave paintings are again found in all across India. So we have got the cave paintings in Maharashtra, in Ajanta Ellora. We have also got the cave paintings in the temple towns of Kerala and also in Tamil Nadu, and they are as widespread. Like you can also find them in Sri Lanka. So we've got a very famous cave painting style which is there in Sri Lanka. So, but that's not part of our discussion today, so I have not included that. But it's important to know that these cave paintings are all like these cave paintings also influenced the styles of painting that developed in the country because they have got rhythmic lines, they have got grouped images, they have got different skin colors, and these paintings have got stories from Buddhism, Jainism, and Hinduism. So while in the earlier cave paintings we had the harvest festivals, normal festivals, ceremonies, and important events in their lives, now we have got stories. So this is about 600 BCE. That's when Buddhism, Jainism developed as important religions. So this is when they started. Sorry, this is when they started to incorporate stories of the deities in the daily life. So again, eventually these influenced the different folk and tribal arts of India. And over here we can see a very nice comparison between Kerala mural paintings and the Ajanta cave paintings. Now, if you look at the left, that's Bodhisattva Padmapani. Now, if you look at his fingers, I cannot zoom in. Do you know how to zoom in? Okay, I cannot zoom in, but if you look at the hand with which he's holding the lotus, it's very feminine in nature, right? It's elongated, it's very feminine, it is very stylized. And if you look at the way the lady on the right is holding the garland, it's the same. And these are two art forms that developed kilometers apart. They are different regions under different kings, and they developed in different time periods as well. So there's that, and there is also the way in which the eyebrows and the eyes are made. Of course, we have got slight more development over here because the painting on the right developed somewhere about 700-800 years after the painting style on the left had already matured and ended, right? But there is a lot of similarities in between them. That is why we cannot just say that, okay, it developed in 700 CE. It did not, because it did originate in 700 CE, but it has its roots all the way back to the Ajanta cave paintings. Then this is a little bit about the Kerala mural paintings. We have already covered that, but I would like to add one more thing over here. So the cave paintings of Ajanta have got a very subdued color palette. But when we talk about the Kerala mural paintings, they've got a different style. Now, in all the Kerala mural paintings, they only use 5 colors. So you can see 6 colors over here. You can also see white. But white is never added as a color in the painting. White is used as a base. So we have got limestone base on the caves, which acts as a base for the paintings. And then we have got 5 colors. So the first color is yellow, then we have got red, then blue. So that's the primary colors. And then we have got green, and finally the black, right? And everywhere that you see white, the artists need to make sure that they think about it beforehand and only add the colors where they do not need white to show, right? And of course, you can see a lot of orange over here as well, but that is because they have done red using stippling, right? They added small, small dots of red over the yellow, and that is how they got the shade of orange in the entire painting. And it's not just stippling, it's also the fact that they use very diluted shades over here. So instead of adding a single shade of red or a single shade of yellow, they add a color in layers. So they have got 3, 4 layers of the same color to get the effect of one particular color in it. And if you go to Kerala or if you go to Tamil Nadu as well, now the art form of Kerala mural, it is called Kerala mural because it's very prominent over there, but the first the first oldest evidence that we have of Kerala mural paintings comes all the way from Tamil Nadu. So everywhere in Kerala and some regions of Tamil Nadu, you would be able to see the Kerala mural paintings. Now, if we talk about the Indus Valley civilization, now for folk and tribal arts, Indus Valley civilization is not a direct connect because it's a completely different art form. But there is a continuation. So Indus Valley civilization, the mature phase at least, it lasted from 2600 BC to 1900 BC, right? But it has its roots way before that from Mehergarh, and it did continue in some rudimentary form or the other for a very long period. Even after the Indus Valley civilization ended, it still continued, not in the form of seals, not in the form of the exact designs that they made, but still in some form of art. So over here in yeah. So on the left, we see the dancing girl. That's from Mohenjo-daro, and that's about 2700 to 2100 BCE. That's the mature phase of Harappan civilization. And the dancing girl is made using a lost wax method. So what they do is they prepare a wax mold, and then they coat it with terracotta. They melt the wax. Now they are left with a shallow mold. That's when they add the bronze into it, and once it's cool, they remove the entire outer structure, and that's how they get their designs. Now, this lost wax method is still used by the tribes, by the Dokra tribes that are found in the states of West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, and Chhattisgarh. They still use the lost wax method in the same way. So even though this is about now 4,000 years old, but it still continues, it is still there. So we cannot say that Indus Valley civilization had no impact on the folk and tribal arts of the country, because it did, right? And even if you look at the way the elbows are made, they have got the same curved bend. They don't have a sharp elbow. Like if you look at our elbow, it's sharp, it's not curved, but they still have a very curved end. The way the bangles are made, the way the hairstyle is made. The eyes are different because, of course, you would have some difference in the art form if it's about 5,000 years of difference, but yes. And this is terracotta. So here we were talking about bronze, the impact of bronze from the Indus Valley civilization. And here we have got the impact of terracotta on from the Indus Valley civilization on the arts and crafts of today. So on the top left, you have got the terracotta figures from the Indus Valley civilization. Right now it's in Brooklyn Museum, but you have got a lot of small terracotta figurines in the National Museum as well. If you get time to go over there, it's in the Indus Valley Gallery. So you can see that. And if you look at the way that the figures are made, they are quite rudimentary, but this laid a foundation stone for all the kinds of terracotta arts that are there in the country. And if terracotta art of the country is a topic for discussion by itself. There is so much into it because the eastern part of the country has got a different way of terracotta, the western part of country has got a different way of terracotta, and the central and southern part has a different way of terracotta. So that's a completely different topic of discussion. But yes, if you look at the way, so here the elephant is from the eastern part of India, and the figure of mother and child is from the central part of India. So you can see the difference, but you can also see the resemblance and also the fact that they started because of the Indus Valley civilization, right? Then we have got pottery. I'm not sure if you have seen the earthen pots that we use to store water. No. Okay, so it's basically like this only. But the difference between the pots that we have today and the pots that we had earlier during the Indus Valley period is profound. I mean, look at the intricacy and the motifs that we have. So these are in the Indus Valley Gallery of the National Museum as well. So you can go over there and see if you have got time. Otherwise, you can look at the Indus Valley civilizations items everywhere. It's almost there in every prominent museum. So it's completely fine. And yeah, so it's nice how some things changed, but some things did not. Now, here is a brief introduction about the tribal arts. As I said, tribal arts are practiced by the tribal communities of the country. So these are important because they have a direct relation to their surroundings, they have a direct relation to their ancestors, and they have a way to depict their happy events, their festivals, and their ceremonies. Now, these tribal paintings are passed on via your mothers or fathers. It depends on the kind of tribe it is. So most of the tribal arts are matrilineal in nature, but we have got some of the art forms which are dependent on the father's side as well. Also about the tribal arts, most of the tribal arts of the country are associated with either music or dance or both. So this is a way to make sure that these arts do not die. So you cannot actually look at these arts and crafts in, you need to make sure that you look at these together. You cannot segregate either of them. You need to see the music that goes along with the painting, you need to see the dance that goes along with the painting, and you need to see the arts that go along with the painting. Now, folk arts of India, as of course we did cover this before, but folk arts of India are the ones which are practiced by mainly by the communities that live in the rural regions. So that's the major difference between the folk and tribal arts, right? And these have got a different theme. Now, instead of depicting the festivals, the harvest festivals, ceremonies, events, the rural paintings, the folk paintings celebrate their day-to-day life. I forgot that part. Day-to-day life. Now, these can either be useful or they can be ornamental. Now, this is a little bit about the traditional and indigenous arts. As I said, some folk and tribal arts can be traditional, some of them can be indigenous. Now, traditional arts are the ones, we'll talk about indigenous first. So, indigenous arts are the ones which which did develop in the country. So, anything that developed in the Indian subcontinent is known as indigenous Indian art. Now, that can either be indigenous folk or it could be indigenous tribal. So, when we talk about Gond, it developed in the country. So, it's indigenous tribal art because it's practiced by the tribal community. And if we talk about Madhubani, it's indigenous folk art because it developed in India and it is practiced by the rural community. Then if we talk about the that's about the indigenous arts. Then if we talk about the traditional arts, these are the ones which did not originate in India. So for example, I'm sure you must have heard about Rogan. So Rogan is an art form that developed in Persia. But it came all the way to India, and over here we changed the motifs, we changed the way, of course the way of painting remained the same. We have got, we fold the cloth and then we open it and we've got a mirror image on either side. That's the same, but we changed the motifs. We changed the way in which we make the motifs as well. So instead of having the flora and fauna which are indigenous to Persia, we added the peacocks and elephants and all the normal flowers that we see over here. So that's how Rogan got Indianized. And if we talk about paper mache as well, so Kashmiri paper mache did not originate originate in the country. Again, it originated somewhere in Central Asia. And then it traveled via traders and kings. It traveled all the way to India. And then it got Indianized because it got the, I'll just show you. Yeah, because it got the motifs that are relevant to the region. So we have got the, on the right, we have got the chinar leaves. So these are found only in Kashmir. These are not found where the art originally developed, right? And on the right, we have got the gul and the gul and the different flowers that are famous over there in Kashmir. And it got Indianized. So the way of making the paintings remained the same, but the motifs and their styles became different. Yeah, so that's about the basic differentiation between the four categorizations of the art. Now, if we talk about the some of the famous folk, tribal, traditional, indigenous arts. So over here we have got Madhubani. Madhubani as an art form developed in the Mithila region of Bihar, and Bihar, Nepal, the Mithila region, both the countries. It's the Indian subcontinent, so it's fine. And this Madhubani style of painting actually developed as a, so this was Raja Janak, the father of Sita, who actually developed this art form. So almost all the art forms have got some sort of connection with the divine, with the deities. So we have got Raja Janak. He decided to paint the entire village with symbols of prosperity, fertility, good luck on the occasion of his daughter's wedding to Lord Ram and his brothers. So it was all four of the daughters who got married to all four of the brothers, the princes of Ayodhya. So the entire region had, they had fish, they had peacock, they had tortoise and Shiv Parvati, because Shiv Parvati are considered a symbol of good marriage, good, like, yeah, a happy blessed marriage. So they had all these symbols. Now what we see over here in Madhubani as well, we can divide Madhubani into different forms. So what we see over here is the wedding Madhubani. It's called kobar, and this is generally made on the occasion of the wedding. So earlier when the weddings used to take place in the homes, they used to paint this on the walls. But now, because the weddings take place in the hotels or farmhouses or different venues, they make a smaller version of the kobar and they take it with them to the venue, because they have adapted to the different style, the modern times. Then over here we have got two different forms of Madhubani as well. So on the right we have got the Kachni style, and on the left we have got the Bharni style. Now the difference between them is, so not all the so it's a women centric art, and not all the women were allowed to paint Madhubani in a specific way. So we had the Brahmin women, the higher caste women, the caste women, and the lower caste women. So all of these had a different way to paint Madhubani. The higher caste women could paint the deities, the lower caste women could not, and they could not use a lot of colors as well. So that's when the middle caste women, the caste women, decided to incorporate the Kachni style. So over here, if you look very closely, yeah, you can look at the border. So we have got very fine lines, the straight lines over there. So this thing is called Kachni, and Kachni is a very important part in all the Madhubani paintings. Like even in the left. Even in the left Madhubani painting, you can see a lot of Kachni, but it has more colors as compared to the one on the right. Right, so that's why that's called Bharni, which has a lot of filled colors, and that's done by the higher caste women. And of course, today everyone does every form of Madhubani. They don't really care about the caste foundations now, but it was very prominent till the 1900s. But after the independence, it was fine. Then this form of art is called Odisha Patachitra. Patachitra is basically something that is done on leaves, but so they've got the talpatra leaves, and then so they have to take the leaf, they have to dry it and treat it with turmeric, and that's when they actually are able to engrave on it. But they do have another form on which they can actually take the cloth and like layers of cloth and bind it using natural gum, and then they use the natural colors. So all these paintings actually use natural colors. So then they use the natural colors and paint over it. Now the difference between Odisha Patachitra and this is Bengal Patachitra is that Bengal Patachitra is more rural in nature. It has more bold colors, bold lines, bold structures as compared to the Odisha Patachitra, which is much more intricate and much more detailed. So over here we have got the deity. So Odisha Patachitra is more religious in nature as compared to the Bengal Patachitra, which is more folk in nature, which is more closely related to the ceremonies and the weddings and the events of life. Odisha Patachitra is more about the stories from Hindu mythology. Yeah, actually it is about the stories from Hindu mythology. Then this is Bengal Matachitra. It is very similar to Madhubani. Now this is because they are geographically very close to each other. But the difference between Bengal Patachitra and Madhubani is that over here you cannot see the double lines. Now if you look at the Madhubani paintings, you would be able to see double lines everywhere in the painting, right? Double lines and the Kachni are the characteristic features of Madhubani. And in Bengal Patachitra, you have got the same features except for the Kachni and the double lining. Then over here we have got Kali Ghat. So Kali Ghat painting is also a style of Patachitra painting. Its name is Kali Ghat because it developed near the Kali Mata temple in Calcutta. Now Kali Ghat paintings are very, even though this is considered as a Patachitra, it is very different from the actual Patachitras of Bengal and Odisha because these were really old. These developed long, long back, and Kali Ghat Patachitra developed in the, sorry. Yeah. So Kalighat Pathachitra actually developed in the early 1900s, late 1800s and early 1900s, somewhere around this period. And these paintings developed on the banks of Hooghly River near the Kalimata temple in Calcutta. And these paintings actually were developed as a way to beat with the mechanized, the oleographs, lithographs, and the machine-made prints that were circulating in the market because of the colonization. And that's why these are so, these are not very intricate. They don't have all the details, but they've got the theatrical cloth. So in the earlier times, we had the theater. So we had the curtain which used to open and close. It's still there in the schools when they have got plays and stuff. So over there in the top, we have got the curtain, which acts as a setting medium. And instead of showing the entire story, instead of depicting the entire scene in an elaborate scroll, which was the case with the Odisha and Bengal Patachitras, these developed as single scene satires which commented on the modern life of the babus and bibis. That is basically the word that was used for um, the city-based urban people who wanted to beat, who wanted to live the lives of the Nawabs and the all the colonial people, colonizers, right? So we have got the Babu and Bibi, the man and women, the married couple, sitting on a chair, which was not a very common depiction. It was not something that was done commonly because earlier people preferred to sit on the floor, right? But we have got them sitting on the chair and we have got them playing the Western instruments instead of them playing the Indian instruments as is seen in the other forms of Patachitra. Then when we come to the tribal paintings, the ones which are done by the tribes. So this is the Saharai painting. It's done by the Saharai tribe of Jharkhand. Saharai and Kovar paintings, these are basically done again on happy occasions, on the occasions of weddings, on the harvest festivals, on the birth of your child, all the happy occasions in the life. Now this is interesting because all the other art forms use paint, some form of the paint or other. But Sohrai as an art form does not use paint, it uses soil. So they've got 4 colors of soil. They've got red, yellow, white and black soil. And so red and yellow soil is tricky because they are only able to collect it after and before and after monsoon, but white and black are readily available. So what they do is they apply a layer of color, whichever color they want, and then they would use their fingers, brooms, twigs or branches of the trees, like thick branches or anything that is readily available to them, or even comb, and they will use that to make designs on the soil. And once it's dry, it's done. So that's how they make all these paintings. Then this is Gond. Now Gond again is from Madhya Pradesh, and Gond as an art form depends upon the ancestors and the nature around the Gond tribe. So each painting, even though it might seem that okay, it's just an animal, okay, it's just tigers and honeybees. Some people might say it's butterfly. It's not actually butterfly. It's honeybees. They call it tiger bees actually, and you might think that okay, it's just dots and dashes and some random elements on the painting, but it's not that. So if you look at the concentric circles, I'll just one second. So if you look at this part, the concentric circles part, so this is a very specific design that's made by this particular artist, and he has got this entire meaning behind it. So each Gond artist has a very specific signature style that they use to make their paintings. So the artist who made this has got concentric circles. His wife uses a wavy snake because she has got her own ideas behind it. Some artists would use asterisks or dashes or dots. So each artist would use his signature style. So even though we might not be able to differentiate between the paintings, the artists by themselves would be able to differentiate that, okay, this is this artist's painting, right? And it might seem that, okay, it's a mother, father, and cub, but it's not just that. The tiger bees that we see at the top are actually symbolic. So these tiger bees are used as a reference point by the villagers to know where the tigers are. So wherever you would find these tiger bees, you would find the tigers as well. So they avoid that path because no one wants to get eaten by a tiger. But yes, and of course, it also symbolizes the cultural harmony between the two sets of animals. Then we have got Bhil. Now, Bhil paintings are again from central India, and these paintings are done by the Bhil tribe. And in Bhil, it's similar to Gond. Many people cannot differentiate between Gond and Bhil, but it's very easy if you look at it closely, actually. Because in Bhil, you would only have dots, nothing else. In Gond, you would have all the characteristic signature styles of the artists, but in Bhil, you would have simple dots. Now, these dots, they've got two meanings. If the dots are in a specific way, like if it's in a triangle or if it's in a rectangle or any other specific shape, then it is symbolic of either a deity or their ancestor. But if the dots are just simply dots, they are not making any design, then it is used to refer to maize. So maize kernels are very important for the tribe because it's their way of, like, even the way of livelihood and even the way of their survival because they depend upon maize a lot. So these are the two different meanings of the dots, and if you look closely, I'm pretty sure you would be able to differentiate between them. Yeah. Then we talk. Then if we talk about the traditional arts, the ones that we covered before. So this is Rogan, and Rogan developed in Persia, and it came to India over 700 years ago. And Rogan as an art form is only practiced by the people in the Nirona village. So we have got the Khatri community in the Nirona village who practice this form of art. Now, it's very tricky to make Rogan because unlike all the other art forms, they do not actually touch the cloth. So if this is their cloth, their stylus would be at this height because that's the way that their paintings are made. So they would have to put one of their finger below the cloth and take their stylus and make the design. So they would have to have a nice hand-eye coordination and make the design on the cloth without actually touching it. And once it's done, what they do is, once the design is ready, they have to make sure that they fold it very quickly, very nicely, without they've got a very nice way of making the colors, and it's a secret, and they would never tell it to anyone. Like, even right now, when there are only about 10, 12 actual artists who are making this art, and even then they are not willing to share the way they make the paints, because that's their trade secret. But if all of the people who practice this art die, I don't know what is going to happen to it. But yes, and actually it's even more difficult to make the paints. Even if they tell it, we won't be able to learn it unless we are very great artists, because they don't have a specific measurement. They would be like, okay, take castor oil, add the pigment into it, boil it till it's this thick. They won't tell you how thick, how much castor oil, how much pigment. They'll just be very vague about it, because that's how they learned. That's how their parents, their grandparents taught them. And that's how they are making the paints really well, but they cannot tell us. It's almost like how our mothers would be like, okay, put salt as much as you want to. You would know how much salt you need. So it's like that. Then Kashmiri paper mache, we did cover it before. So the style of Kashmiri paper mache is the same. So it developed in the 16th, 17th, some say 18th century as well. It's highly vague, because we do not have any reference to when it actually developed. Some say the sources say 16th century, some say the sources say 18th century, depending upon who exactly brought the art, if it's the guru, or if it's a trader, or if it's the king, right? And the way of making paper mache is still the same, and it got its name because it's a very fancy French name, right? Paper mache. It's all with all the French accents. That's because paper mache got very popular in France as a pen stand and flower. So everyone, all the officials who used to visit the Kashmiri region, or anyone who traveled over there, they got these as souvenirs to take them back to their home country, and that's how it actually got a very fancy name. And then if we talk about the indigenous art forms, so this is Fad. Fad is again about 700 years old, and it's indigenous because it developed in the country. So it developed in the entire Rajasthan region. So it developed in one village, then it got migrated to another, and that's how it got spread over the entire Rajasthani state, all the Rajasthani kingdoms. But they stayed true to what their way of depiction is. So in the Fad paintings, we have got huge scrolls. Scrolls they would actually be bigger than the length of this room, right? And they have got the entire stories of their deities. So we have got different deities. This one's Pabuji. This is called Pabuji ki Fad, and we have got Dev Narayan, we have got Ramji, not the Ram that we worship, it's Ramdala, and we have, huh? Oh, okay. Ah, lovely. So you can see a lot of the Fad paintings over there, and they have like, especially the bigger Fad paintings, they have a nice pictorial divide. If you look at it, like if you look at it right now, you would not be able to differentiate between the different sections, and this is not the entire bigger Fad actually, because you won't be able to see anything if I show that. But it has, even in this one, so we have got the court of the king in the top right, we have got his procession in the bottom right, and then on the left we have got the wedding ceremony, and on the left top we have got, like the topmost part, we have got Ganeshji, because now that's very interesting, because even though they did not actually depict stories of the Hindu deities, they had their own local folk deities, right? But they still, because Ganeshji is the first deity that we worship, so they still had the depiction of Ganeshji at the top in each Fad, irrespective of how big or small the scroll is. If it's a scene, then it's a different thing. But of course, they also had to grow and become different. Now, Fad paintings are not exactly a simple art form, because these paintings were used as movie scrolls. So as soon as the sun set, these Phad paintings were opened, rolled down, and then the Bhopas and Bhopis, the priest and priestess, they had the, I mean, if you have been to Rajasthan, some place in Rajasthan, you would have seen this in the hotels. It's very common nowadays. So we have got the Bhopas and Bhopis, the priest and his wife. So they have a diya, and they would take the diya to the different scenes, and then they would sing and have a musical instrument. It's called Ravan Hatta. They would take that and have a nice lyrical explanation of the entire painting. So it's not just the painting, because if you look at it in general, you would not be able to understand what each part is saying. You would be like, oh, there are so many figures. But each of these figures are important because they depict some part of the story that would only be possible, for us to understand if we have the Bhopas and Hopis singing it to us. Then this is a contemporary depiction. So it's again the Phad, but it's different from the actual traditional Phads that we have because it's in a sequence. So this one depicts the entire Hanuman Chalisa from start to end, and it even has the text of Hanuman Chalisa around it. Yeah. Then this is just a little bit about MeMeraki as well. Ramji actually covered about it before, so I won't get into it again. But yeah, our mission is basically to provide all the artists, the traditional, folk, tribal, and indigenous artists, a platform, a physical space, and a digital space as well, so that they can promote their art. Because at this point of time, we have got so many artists whose children are not learning their arts and crafts. Why? Because they don't earn that much. Some of our artists earn well, that's true, but not all. We are not able to provide a perfect space to all of our artists, and that's something that we achieve to do, to provide all of them a way to continue their art forms, right? And this is a little, oh, if you look at this image, this is how Rogan is made. He is making the Rogan painting. And so, yeah, we try to create awareness about the arts and crafts, and we do it through the different wall mural festival. So we have got a wall mural festival in Hong Kong since past 5 years, and we also have various exhibitions in the country and abroad as well. And basically, we try to focus on the traditional arts as well, and not just the ones who have learned the craft right now. The generational artists who have been doing it since 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, and even 40 generations. We have got a couple of artists, more than a couple of artists, who have been doing it since like 35 to 40 generations. So that's a very long time. And this is actually part of the Wall Mural Festival in Hong Kong. Yeah, so that's about it. Thank you.